Hello everyone. I'm here to give my review of the second book that I've read in my book challenge. As you can probably hear from my voice, I've not been very well at all this week. Caught a really stinker of a cold. And this is the best my voice has been so far this week. I'm feeling much better, but I've still got this bug in my system. And I've got this bad cough, so if I start coughing and spluttering during this video, I really do apologise. It's not my fault, it's just the way I am. I'm not very well at the moment. But because of that, I have found reading this week quite difficult because I've been getting home and going straight to bed and not really having the energy to read. So yesterday, was going to go into town and do shopping and all sorts, but I stayed at home and just had a day of resting and reading. So I managed to finish my second book yesterday, which was The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Now, as I said in my video when I announced I was going to be reading this, I really like Neil Gaiman's work. I think he's absolutely brilliant author. He's written some absolutely amazing work. And yeah, I really love his work to bits. And I've never come across a piece of his work that I actually have had negative thoughts against. And I have to say, it was bound to happen at some point, and that point came when I read this book. Now, it's a very odd book, and from the way that it's written, and I think maybe that is possibly what has made me not like it to the same degree as I have liked his other books. Don't get me wrong, I did like it, but it doesn't make me want to reread it. I'm still asking loads and loads of questions about this book, what happens, the characters and everything, which has led me to think that overall I wasn't really that impressed by it, because if I'm still asking all these questions, isn't that wrong? Shouldn't I not have all of these questions about this text? But then because it's written in such a different way than other stories that he's written before, maybe that was on purpose. I don't know. But in case you haven't read this book, basically, it's about a boy. It's written in first person. But our narrator, we never find out his name. So I'm not saying that. I was going to say, right, that there's this clear disconnect because you don't know his name, but then we do learn various things about him, but not necessarily everything about him. So I don't know if that disconnect of not even knowing their name has caused me to not fully love this story. I don't know, but just FYI, you never find out his name. And it starts off modern time. He's 47, 48, and he's attending a funeral. He's gone back home to this town that he lived in to attend a funeral. We don't know whose funeral or anything like that. As it develops, we find out that he's had a marriage that's failed. He's got a couple of kids, and he ends up leaving the group with for the wake after the funeral. And he ended up going down to this farmhouse that's not far away from where he used to live, and sit by a pond on this farmhouse. And this is Letty's pond. Now Letty is a girl who lived on that farm when he was little, and it takes you then back to his childhood when he was about 7, 8 years old, and then the rest of the story is told from his memories of what happened to him then. There is the very last chapter, the epilogue, does take you back to modern time, and you find out how this story has affected his adult life. And you learn some truths as well as to what has happened to him since these events. But yeah, that's really the gist of it. And you meet Letty, and Letty is raised by her mother and her grandmother at this farmhouse, and they're very, what you would describe, odd in the in the town, and the way that they talk about things, they know things that other people can't possibly know. They sense things that people are coming down the road, and they know things that have happened. But whenever our narrator questions them, they say, "Oh no, we're not witches or anything." But you don't find out any more about them and what exactly they are about. And it does have fantasy elements to it, as all of Neil Gaiman's work does, but it's fantasy in a way that feels odd to me. There, these very interesting sequences of finding out various truths and going off in kind of to like another world and meeting new characters and finding out how that world interlocks with ours. I found those bits quite good, but then at the same time, once all that stuff was over, and the threat of the story was gone, it was kind of like, what was the point of that? I don't get it. It was very, very strange. But I don't know if maybe if I read it a second time, I'd understand it more. Maybe it's that initial read, and I just didn't. That I was missing something. I couldn't. I wasn't capturing something that I should be in order to understand more of this world and what Neil Gaiman was trying to say from it. Um, but yeah, I couldn't connect to it. Which is kind of sad, because as I said, I really love Neil Gaiman's work, but you can't love everything that a person writes. And yeah, it just so happened that even though this book had great moments, very, interesting things that he played around with. I couldn't quite fully connect to our lead narrator. I was just left with loads and loads of questions, and yeah, overall, even though it was it was an all right story, I don't feel that it stood out. He's done other works where he's followed young children, for example, Coraline. I find that absolutely fantastic, how he's taken this girl who, she's quite young and she's not really happy in her situation in life and such, and she feels like her parents ignore her, and she doesn't get her way, and then she finds this door in her new house which leads her to an alternate world where everything is the same, but everything goes her way. Everybody's nice, everything's, she gets all the best clothes and everything's fantastic and everything, but everyone's got buttons for eyes. And how the darkness, how she'd love to stay in that world, but there's a dark side to it, and her learning what the consequences of getting everything that you want. Whereas in this book, it's kind of like the darkness from the fantasy element, even though it does have our narrator come to understand his father more, because there's a lot of discussion about his relationship with his father in this, especially when some more darker elements of his childhood come up, um, and how in later life he becomes friends with his dad, and so in that sense you have that dark element and how it intertwines with life and everything. But then at the same time, it kind of felt like this book doesn't really have a nice ending in any regard for any character. Not that I'm saying that everything has to have a happy ending, don't get me wrong, because there's lots of stories where there's sad endings and such, and that's just the way it is, and I suppose you could argue that with this book. But I just felt like it was very odd. And yeah, I have to say I wasn't overly impressed, Neil. I'm sorry. But maybe maybe if I read it when I wasn't sick, I don't know. Maybe I would have felt a bit better about this story, or maybe I should give it another try. But I can't do that until the book challenge is over. But yeah, I have to say, even though there were some interesting characters in this one, I wasn't overly impressed by them. They weren't my favourite characters that Neil has written either. So I think I may have to put a bit of a cross through this one, I'm afraid. Um, yeah. Sorry, Neil, it wasn't one of my favourites. What did you think of the story? Have you read this book before? Let me know what you thought. You can leave a comment for me, or you can show what you think by the thumbs up or the thumbs down buttons. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. And I'm going to stop there because I think my voice is about to give out. I'm just about to, sorry. There we go. I nearly managed through the video without coughing, but oh well, one had to get in there. But right, I'm gonna do separate video as always. For picking out what my next book will be on the challenge, and I will see you guys soon, and hopefully my voice will be a little better next week. I mean, obviously I'm going to do the book choice in the next book I'm going to be reading right away, so my voice will still be like this in my next video. But hopefully next time you see me next week, my voice will be a bit better. See ya!